Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen.
Welcome to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, of course, in the GSMC Podcast Network. Again, if this is your first time with us, we do soccer. We have a sports podcast. We have a football podcast. We have a fantasy football podcast, baseball, basketball as well. So please join those if you haven't already and have an interest in those things. So today, let's talk about world soccer. As we take a look at Champions League action this week. We had some games yesterday. We have some games today. We also are back from the international break, as we saw some international teams in action last week, but now those players have returned to their clubs, some with injuries, including some Liverpool players like Sadio Mane and Naby Keita, who suffered injuries with their national teams. That's always the biggest fear that these clubs have, that these club coaches have, is their players going away for international duty, but then coming back injured, which affects their domestic league. So Sadio Mane for Liverpool might be the one that has that suffered the biggest injury from the international break, but there was a bigger injury in the world of soccer that we'll get to later. But Sadio Mane breaks his thumb, which leaves him in doubt for Champions League and for also his game this weekend for Liverpool.
Breaking your thumb, that's like the worst limb to break.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what puts us ahead of a lot of other species.
Yeah, he broke it. He got surgery to fix it real quick, and he actually should be back this week.
Did you say Jeff Malinoff, by the way?
Jeff Malinoff is here.
Yes, hi. Sorry if I'm just... I didn't know if he said my name or not.
I was too excited, my bad.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Malinoff. Hi, how's it going?
Yeah,
Good.
So we'll talk about a couple different teams in particular today as we look at Champions League, as we look at the games that happen and the matchups that will happen. Of course, we will talk about the English Premier League this weekend on the last segment for today's show, but our first two teams that we need to talk about, we're going to take a deep dive into, is, of course, two teams that have been in the headlines recently, continue to be in the headlines, Manchester United and Real Madrid, both teams facing coaching issues. Will they stay? Will they get sacked? We don't know yet. We hear lots of rumors. We'll start with Manchester. We'll start in England. Jeff, Manchester United played Chelsea this last Saturday. It was a tough game.
Yes, it was.
Tell me what happened, sir.
Well, it was a 2-2 draw, but in the final minutes, a sub by the name of Ross Barkley came in the 69th minute, and in 90-plus minutes, in 96 minutes exactly, Barkley hit a goal to tie the game up and end it in a draw for Chelsea, which is huge for Chelsea, pretty bad for Manchester United. Chelsea remains undefeated. And with Manchester United, that didn't help them at all in the Premier League. That just made it worse.
Made their struggles a little bit tougher.
But 2 goals by Marital was huge for them. Like, he almost had the hat trick.
Oh, Martial, yes.
Martial, excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, Martial came back after being down 1-0. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, two unanswered goals, and then the kind of I guess you can call it a heartbreaker. A heartbreaking goal.
Yeah, Martial, he evens the game up. He has another goal that take the lead, and for a player that's been maybe not on the best graces with the manager, Martial stepped up and made his presence felt, let everybody know.
I deserve to be here type of statement.
Mm-hmm. He's been a player that's been linked to being somebody who's going to be transferred out, maybe somebody who's unhappy. So to see him score 2 goals and kind of remind everybody that he's a young, talented player was nice.
His stock went up. If he's going to be a transfer, his stock just went up.
Yeah, we'll see if he can continue on that. But the big story from this game, Jeff, is assistant coach for Chelsea, Marco Ianni. So the goal is scored by Barkley in the 96th minute, right at the death, right before the game is over. We see an assistant coach run in front of the Manchester United bench, right in front of Coach Jose Mourinho, sprints in front of him. He gives him a nice little fist pump, like Tiger Woods. Yeah, like exactly.
We were thinking the same exact thing.
Like Tiger Woods sinking that hole. Yeah, sinking that ball in the hole, sinking that putt. I'm not a golf guy, so
okay. I'll teach you some phrases later.
So excuse me, but you know what I mean. Tiger Woods celebration, and then when he comes back to head back to his bench, it looks like he leans over, talks a little trash to Mourinho, which sparks Mourinho to get up out of his chair and to approach. He tried to get at him. I don't know what he would have done if he would have got him, but he was stopped
Probably socked him in the face.
He was stopped by security, the police that were at the field. They intertwined. They got between.
There quick.
Yeah, they were. It was.
They
very
were on.
fast.
They did their job. That's for sure.
So, at the end of the game, so obviously the game was over at that point. You know, the referee blows the final whistle like right after the next kickoff because the added time had been passed through. But at the end of the game, some Chelsea fans were giving Mourinho, ribbing him a little bit, talking a little trash, and he told everybody, three. I won 3 titles as your manager here. 3. I won 3 titles as your manager here, and that was pretty funny to see. Of course, Mourinho, we know he's fiery. We know when he's confronted, he confronts back. He's not one to walk away.
He's confrontational, is what you're saying.
That is an understatement. He confronts his players. He confronts his rivals. He
confronts his mom. He confronts his dad.
I would not be surprised. Most people that watch this game and know his history would not be surprised if he has pissed off some family members.
If you won 3 championships with a team and they start ribbing you once you leave, I would be a little frustrated also. But like, hey, what's up with it? You guys should still at least respect me.
So Mourinho's been, criticized for a lot of things. His tactical approach to games, his results maybe this year not being what they should be or what Manchester United fans are accustomed.
Manchester United is struggling.
Right, but everybody in the world of football will agree that Mourinho was not in the wrong here. In fact, that the assistant coach for Chelsea was absolutely in the wrong. The head coach for Chelsea, Mauricio Sarri, actually, it's kind of funny. His last name is Sarri. He apologized to Mourinho about his assistant coach, said that he would handle it internally, that he would be reprimanded.
Probably got his butt kicked in the locker room. So
Mauricio Sarri took responsibility, as a good manager would, for his assistant coach. Obviously, they're grown men.
Like that. I like a coach that'll be like, that's not a guy that'll show up. Like if someone is doing something in the wrong, they're not like, oh, well, we'll take. He's like, no, I'll take care of this. And he's telling the truth.
And it's just disgraceful. Like if it's a player,
you're an assistant coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares about you?
If you're a player and you score a winning goal or something like that, and you do something, you're in the heat of the moment. You're in the But an assistant coach, like, sit down, man, or celebrate.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah, it's a bad look for Chelsea. But
okay, Ronaldo wannabe. I mean, come on.
It's a bad look for Chelsea because their players have a lot of class players on their team. Their manager's a class act himself. So
they're just known as a classy team, and then that happens, and that just a sour taste in your mouth to end the game. You're not supposed to think about the assistant coach showing off. You're supposed to be thinking about what a game and what a moment for Barkley, who's a sub, who's an alternate, and he gets the game-tying goal for the Chelsea. Keeps them undefeated.
So moving on to the Manchester side of this whole thing, whole perspective is they were losing the game on the road in a tough place to play. Stamford Bridge, the home of Chelsea, is
that name, by the way.
Yeah, Stamford Bridge is a tough. It's definitely an old stadium, but it's a tough place to play. But then Manchester United goes up in this game, so you have the lead up into injury time. Do you think that this is a poor result for Manchester United, considering that they had the 3 points secured until they ended up leaving with 1?
Well, it was disappointing for sure.
Like they needed They needed 30 seconds more of defending. 30 seconds.
This whole season has been disappointing for them. Like they're right now they're 10th in the Premier League, and they're not doing so well in the Champions League either. Like they're struggling in every single time they step onto the field. And when you start a team like Manchester United, who's known for being like this illustrious team and like full of history and full of accomplishments and full of winning, and they're barely hanging on by a thread now. They're 4-2-3 right now, and that's just average. And that's not something Manchester United are known
10th,
for.
And that's middle of the table, so that's exactly average. Exactly.
Average is that. That's not what you think when you think Manchester United. You think top 5 team. They're not a top 5 team right now. They're having a big slump, and they can't really get out of it. They had to win, and they just let themselves be beat.
Yeah, and you look at the table right now, even with the slow start for Manchester, had they won this game, they're sitting in 7th place.
That's not even that good.
But it's like there. Like it's
well, you beat the undefeated Chelsea team who's second right now.
Exactly.
They're tied for first with Manchester City. It's a huge
hurt
accomplishment.
Chelsea, you move up, and then you can start progressing from there.
You beat Chelsea, they're out of first place. They're still tied with Manchester City.
Well, they're in third. They're in third because they have 21 points, but they have
I'm sorry, Liverpool is the one who I'm thinking of with 23 points. Excuse me.
But still, you're right. Your point is correct. You hurt Chelsea. You move up to 7th yourself. And then you face Everton this weekend, and we'll talk about that game. But Everton's in 8th place, playing very good. Everton's a solid team in the English Premier League, one of the top 8, top 9 teams, mostly every single season. That's not an easy game for Manchester United at all. So they tie Chelsea, which brings up the doubts if Mourinho is still going to be the manager heading on forward. But, Jeff, at the end of the day, you took a tie against one of the better teams in the league. So it's like you can look at it from the perspective of...
But if you watch the game, they had the win.
Yeah,
so close.
They did.
It's like they kind of blew it. Like I know they played a great team in Chelsea, but when you have an opportunity to... You had your foot on their neck and you let them get up.
Absolutely. So that was Saturday. Yesterday, Manchester United hosted Juventus from Italy. As we know, it was the game on everyone's calendar because that man, that bad man, Cristiano Ronaldo, made his return to Old Trafford, where he had a great early part of his career as he started off from 18 years old with Manchester United, replacing David Beckham. Back when
a person to replace, by the way.
So it's very interesting because when Manchester United decided they were going to sell David Beckham, their manager, who's very successful, said, I know this guy is going to replace David Beckham. He's 18 years old. He's super young. Not a lot of people knew who Ronaldo was because he was playing in Portugal, and that's not one of the biggest leagues.
And he's
18. So he comes in, and right away you could tell that this kid had something. Like he was a special talent. He struggled a little bit early on in his early years because he got fouled a lot of times. Like he was skinnier. The Ronaldo we see today is not the Ronaldo that came into.
He's only improved with age. He's like
not only improved, but his body type is completely different. He used to be
ripped now.
Yeah, he used to be this real skinny guy who got fouled all the time. Then he realized if I get bigger, it's harder to foul me.
He got big.
Yeah, now as we know, he's
probably one of the toughest guys to try to take down with it.
Let's just put it this way: he wasn't an underwear model at 18, but he is one now. So. I mean, he's got the endorsements to back it up.
He's known as one of the most attractive men in the world, so...
He makes his return to Old Trafford yesterday with Juventus. As we know, Juventus is one of the best teams in the world. They're the Italian club that has won 7 consecutive titles.
And now adding Ronaldo just makes them even better.
So they've been to the semifinals in the Champions League the last couple of years. But now
they might go over that hump.
Yeah, they added Ronaldo with the idea that would put them over the top because he's been the one that knocked him out the last 2 times. Like he's been the player.
So you can't beat him, buy him.
Absolutely. I mean, that's world soccer for you in a nutshell. But
he wasn't cheap, that's for sure.
He made his mark yesterday. Although he did not score, he did set up the goal that Juventus scored. They win 1-0 against Manchester United at Old Trafford.
That was in the 17th minute, so it was very early in the game.
Yeah, he crossed the ball into the box. The initial shot was blocked, but then it was a really good cross by Ronaldo, but the initial shot was blocked, but it fell right to Paulo Dybala's feet. He puts it in the...
Paulo Dybala, say that 3 times
Paulo Dybala from Argentina. He puts it in the back of the net, continuing his great run. Paulo Dybala is on fire right now. So,
but do you, he got subbed out at the 78th minute. Do you think that was a smart decision to keep the guy that scored the goal out of the game?
Yeah, because he's been playing a lot lately and producing a lot.
Fatigue.
Yeah, he's been.
Well, Ronaldo played the whole game, and he's been kind of pouting about his playing time.
So Ronaldo also was suspended for a couple Champions League games.
Well, no, I meant before that he got subbed out kind of early.
At the beginning, but he's fine now. It takes. The thing with Ronaldo is that he's at the stage of his career where they want to limit his minutes in the early part of the season. He's kind of like his teams, his coaches. They want to make sure he's good for the big games, for the big moments, and not wasting his talent or his energy on some games that already won, maybe some lesser games. But my point is, what I really want to talk about here is Manchester United lose at home against Juventus. Although Juventus is a great team, Manchester United fans will see this as another failure because they were at home. It was a lackluster offensive performance by Manchester United. They didn't have too many opportunities to score. So, a lot of the criticism on Jose Mourinho is that his teams don't attack enough. They're defensive-minded.
Too conservative,
too restrictive in the way they play. A lot of times they play teams that allow their players to play with more freedom, with more, enthusiasm, you could say, if that makes sense. So with another lackluster performance by Manchester United, what do you think about Mourinho's future now? Do you think that they still wait and see, or do you think that
there's
they
a
make
big
a move?
question mark there because you expected excellence when it comes to this team, and if you're not bringing that, someone else can easily come along and bring that excellence back, type of thing. They can get anybody basically because of their legacy and their history, and if you're not doing well right now, there's nothing really that says you're going to do well in the future. So I would definitely say he's on a very hot seat right now.
Yeah,
but
and
I'll give him I'll say 75% chance he'll get fired.
The one thing he has going for him, though, is that it's in the middle of the season. There's not too many coaches that are available at this point. Like in the summer,
they'll hold him off till end season and then look for someone new.
Well, let's just say that even if he's fired, what most likely happens is that the assistant coach becomes a manager for the rest of the season before they go out and make a big move, because yes, the rumor is Zinedine Zidane might become the next manager, and he is available technically, but he took time away from the game, so he's not. Who knows if he wants to come back right now? Antonio Conte, who, interestingly enough, he was the former Chelsea manager who replaced Mourinho. He is also available at the moment too. But, that does go in Mourinho's favor because Manchester United, they are not going to just select a no-name guy. That's a club with a big history. They went after Mourinho for a reason because he was a big name. He was a successful manager. It's hard to see them making a splash hire anytime soon, so I think that he'll last longer than most people think just because if they don't have another coach in place, they might as well just let him ride this thing out.
Yeah. Maybe that is a smarter decision just to wait out the whole season. And maybe it'll be better in the summer when, like you said, coaches will be more available and you can talk to more and interview more and stuff like that. So I guess it's just a waiting game now.
This weekend, Manchester United plays Everton. That's
a must-win game for him.
Yeah,
Well, maybe a must-win game to even consider saving his job is what I'm saying.
Now it is a home game, so it will be interesting to see if they have another subpar performance, what the fans and what the reactions are from this game. But it is an interesting game. It is important. I believe that Manchester United does. Again, I don't know if it's a must-win, but these games now for Manchester United and Jose Mourinho are starting to pile up. And remember, their second leg with Juventus is coming up in just a couple weeks. They also play Manchester City in a couple weeks. They have Juventus and Manchester City in the same week, Jeff. The first week rolling into the second week of November. So, if he is to be fired, I would say it would be around that time. But we need to go to a break. We're overdue. When we come back,
we are.
When we come back, we'll talk about other teams with other problems. Of course, we'll talk about Real Madrid as they gear up for the Clásico this weekend against their most hated rival, Barcelona. We'll do that right after this.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. Of course, my co-host with me, Jeff Malinoff. I'm Mark Souza. If you missed the first segment, you didn't. But if you did, we talked about Manchester United and their struggles. I would like to talk about another team, another world powerhouse that has been struggling quite a bit. Real Madrid.
Real Madrid in America.
Real Madrid, they win their Champions League game against Victoria Plzen yesterday, 2-1. Very unconvincing win. That's a team that you would think that they would beat 5 or 6 goals, especially when they had their old guard, their old Zinedine Zidane teams with Ronaldo. But again...
you just made the point. Ronaldo is not there anymore. That's a huge loss.
Yes, and... Real Madrid takes a look ahead to this weekend against their hated rival, of course, the El Clásico, the biggest soccer game in the world. Every single year, these teams play each other at least twice, and every time you can count on a good game. But this game is different, Jeff. You want to know why that's different?
When it's called the Classic, that means it's a classic. It's historical.
It doesn't matter if the teams are up, down. It's always a game. So it's in Barcelona at the Camp Nou Stadium there. Now, you want to know why this game is different?
Why?
No Messi and no Ronaldo. Messi broke his arm. He's out for about 3 to 4 weeks on a fractured arm. He will not be playing. We are looking at a El Clásico without Ronaldo and Messi, which I can't remember. It's got to be at least a decade since that happened. Since 2008, 2007, maybe even earlier than that.
Yeah.
At least one of those guys has been in every game that I can think of in the last 10 years. So it's going to be a very different El Clásico than we've seen in the past.
Well, there's been a lot of times they face each other.
Yeah. What is the head-to-head series between these two gloried clubs here?
Well, including friendly matches, they face each other 271 times.
There's no friendlies in this matchup. They can call it whatever they want, though.
Yeah, but Barcelona has the edge in wins, 99 to 112. So they have kind of a good distance on them right now.
Barcelona?
Yeah. But there are 60 draws total.
Mm-hmm.
That's including friendly matches, though. Because friendly matches, Barcelona beats them 20-4. But all competitions, Madrid has 95, Barcelona has 92.
Yeah, they don't really count the friendlies, so that's where...
I was just counting the friendlies because it's...
So 95 to 92.
Yeah, we'll just go on competitions.
So they've played 270-something games, and they've been they're separated by 3 wins, is what you're saying.
237 games in total competitions.
Can we just take a step back for a second and realize how crazy that is?
That's insane.
That's like as close as it can be. I mean, it really... Statistically
and
can't
50 draws,
be much.
too. There's 50 draws, too. So... In competition, 237 times, 3-win difference. 50 draws. You want to guess how many goals there are total?
Go ahead and tell me.
Barcelona has 386 goals against them.
Mm-hmm.
And Madrid has 401.
Okay.
So that's
some insane numbers that we're talking about.
787 goals.
Yeah.
That's
So,
monstrous.
speaking of goals, Real Madrid cannot score them. Yes, they scored. Yes, they scored 2 yesterday against a subpar team, but they continue to struggle in La Liga, as we've seen them go, I believe, 4 games now in a row without scoring a goal. They did score last game. I will say that. They did score at the weekend against Levante. I forgot for a split second there, but they lost that game. Again, they lost to another team that they should never lose to. I mean...
Yes. Do you want to hear their biggest blowout? The biggest blowout of this
probably
classic?
like 8-0 maybe.
11-1.
Okay. Probably like 1935.
They faced each other only 8 times in the Champions League, which seems kind of small, all things considered. I know Champions League is in group stages and all that kind of stuff.
Well, the one thing that they do in Champions League is they split up the teams. Like
By
if you're in, they split up like the Spanish teams won't play each other in the first round. So if like one of those teams is knocked out, then you don't see them.
Right.
And then in the
just think
knockout
that's
round, it's
interesting.
randomized.
Yeah, but out
so.
of 237, only 8 of them are in Champions League. That just seems like a small number in comparison.
Yeah. So Real Madrid, they cannot score goals, and they are another team whose coach has been rumored to be sacked. Julian Lopetegui. I always get this wrong. Lopetegui. He is on the hot seat. The rumors are swirling. And if there's one thing we know about Real Madrid, it's that rumors are always spread by the club. There's a lot. When there is smoke with Real Madrid, there is always fire. They are a club that likes to intimidate, that likes to talk, that likes to push their players and coaches in the media. They're known for being very cynical. When it comes to that, they only can accept success, and if you're not successful, they will find ways to make you uncomfortable, whether that's in the media. That it sounds like he will be the manager, though. We do have word that Lopetegui will be the manager for Real Madrid. They are thinking about making a move, it sounds like. In fact, an interesting name that came up about the coaching search is that Jose Mourinho, who used to be the Real Madrid coach, there's rumors that he'll get fired from Manchester United and then end up being the coach for Real Madrid again, which would be we would call that landing on your feet. Wouldn't you say, Jeff? If you get fired from Manchester United but you land at Real Madrid in the same season, I think that's called landing on your feet.
Yeah, that's more than landing on your... That's like landing on your hands, doing a handstand, then doing a backflip, then landing on your feet.
So that would be quite interesting. But, again, I wanted to talk about it. Messi, he broke his arm. He fractured his arm for Barcelona. So he's out. Do you think that this El Clasico that is in Barcelona, it is at the Camp Nou, do you think we're going to have a dud game? Or do you think that it might live up to the expectations of the rivalry in its history?
I'm hoping for a close, competitive game, like just like in the rivalry. But how Real Madrid's been playing...
Very poorly.
And Messi being gone also, this might be just a bad game to watch.
It takes a lot of the shine off this game.
It really does.
Yeah.
But I still see Barcelona taking this. Just Real Madrid has just not impressed me watching them play.
Yeah, they haven't been good in a long time. Really haven't had any impressive wins this season for the club. A lot of people are saying that it's because they got rid of Ronaldo. You can say that. I think it's a combination of Ronaldo and Zinedine Zidane. I mean, Zinedine Zidane was super successful with them, and he's gone. They get a new coach. A lot of the players are the same, but of course, their goal scorer is gone. They've had problems scoring goals. So,
absolutely. I think the main reason, just like we said, they lost a lot of star power, and not just star power, but their best players. Because that star power is the best in the world. And considering that, this might just be like a 1-0 type of game, or even 0-0, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of scoring in this game.
Yeah. I mean, they do. Barcelona plays today against Inter Milan, so they will have one less day of rest, I guess. I guess that's one thing that we could take into consideration, but their last Champions League game against Tottenham really showed that they were at the top of their game as they won that game 4-2. They tied Valencia recently, but Yeah, I think Barcelona's going to win this game. I don't even know if it's going to be close, to be honest with you, Jeff. Real Madrid just can't score goals right now, and Barcelona, even without Messi, I think they'll find the net a couple times. I say they win. I say Barcelona wins 2-0. What do you think?
2-0, that's, it's hard to argue that. But I'm going to go 1-0 on this one.
I think if Barcelona wins and it's an ugly win, I think that Lopetegui is out ASAP. I don't think that Real Madrid, I don't think will mess around like Manchester United. I don't believe that they'll waffle. I think they'll just say, nope, he's gone. And then they'll make that decision. We've seen the cynicism from the club that is called Real Madrid. So, with that being said, yeah, we look and we see Barcelona play Inter Milan today, which will be an interesting game. Inter Milan will look to pounce on the opportunity that Barcelona will have to play this game without Leo Messi. Leo Messi, of course, is, arguably the best player in the world, one of the top players in the world. He will be sorely missed as Barcelona. That team is constructed around the talents of Messi, the Argentinian forward. So, with that being said, I think we are going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we will discuss the Champions League games that happened yesterday. We touched on the one game, Juventus, Manchester United. We'll talk about the other results. We'll talk about today's fixtures as well as we gear up here in the next couple hours for Champions League Match Day 3. But we will do that right after this.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we are back with the GSMC Soccer Podcast, of course. Your host, Mark Souza. I'm here with Jeff Malinoff. We just talked about Manchester United. Their struggles. Is Mourinho out? Is he in? We will find out. We also took a look at the Barcelona, Real Madrid, El Clasico coming up here at the weekend, and the struggles that Real Madrid has had and their own drama when it comes to coaching. Now we are going to focus on Champions League as we have halfway through Match Day 3. The other part of Match Day 3 will be happening today, so about the time that this podcast comes out for your listening pleasure, those games will be starting. So we will jump into it. Yesterday, Jeff, I know you have some scores. Let's talk about the results.
Well, so Ajax played Benfica, and Ajax had it 1-0. And then we move on to Shakhtar versus Manchester City, and being Manchester City, they won this 3-0. And then another a 3-3 tie. Hoffenheim and Lyon tied, which is nice to see a big high-scoring game like that. And then we just talked about Manchester United. Juventus won 1-0. Real Madrid played Victoria and won that game 2-1. Roma faced CSKA Moscow and won 3-0. So there was multiple kind of blowouts in this situation.
Yeah.
AEK Athens and Bayern played each other. Bayern won that game by a score of 2-0. And the Young Boys, I was going to kick out that name because that name is just so unique. And Valencia tied 1-1.
Yeah, so interesting games. I mean, Manchester City took care of business. You mentioned it. I mean, right now they are one of the top teams in the world. They dispatched Shakhtar pretty easily. It wasn't really a close game, and it was away. And even with that said, 24 shots attempted by Man City. They held possession. They get the scoring done early as they take a 2-0 lead in the halftime. This team is playing very well, and we know, again, we'll keep talking about this. Their goal this year is not just to win England. Their goal is to win the Champions League. It's the one trophy that they haven't been able to capture, but they have set themselves up pretty solid so far. As we see, they did suffer a loss, but they sit at 6 points. Right now they're at the top of the table for Group F. So with that being said, they are positioning themselves to, of course, advance, but as we know, their goal is not advancing. It should just be a given. That should not be an issue with them.
Yeah, I love that they say that's not our only goal. Of course, your goal is to win both leagues. That should be everyone's goal. Whoever's in both Premier League and Champions League, that should be their goal. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I guess you have more of a chance to win one than the other, kind of. I mean, I guess, would it be easier to win Champions League or Premier League? What do you think?
I mean, they're both incredibly hard,
yeah.
But Champions League, you're playing the best of the best in the world, and you're not familiar with all the teams, so it's harder.
So I would say that your main league. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, Champions League's harder than your regular league. Is tough. It's more grueling, but at the same time, you're more familiar with your foes. So Bayern Munich wins 2-0. It was a pretty easy win for them, but it was 0-0 for most of that game. So it was a little nervy, but Bayern Munich, of course.
They got rid of those nerves awfully quickly.
Bayern Munich is just one of the teams that we can expect to, be there at the end. They're actually tied atop Group E, though, as Ajax, who drew Bayern in the last match day, beat Benfica, like you mentioned, and that puts Ajax in a really strong position now that they're tied with Bayern Munich at top of Group E. Benfica sits behind at 3 points, Ajax and Bayern at 7, Athens at 0, so they're most likely out. Not mathematically, of course, but it would take
miracle.
It would take an act of God, most likely. So, it was a good day for Bayern Munich. And then we looked at one game that you talked about, Hoffenheim and Lyon. You mentioned it, 3-3, high-scoring game. We saw 2 goals in the first half, as 1-1 at halftime. We have 3 goals for Lyon, 3 goals for Hoffenheim. They actually score, Joelinton scores in the 92nd minute for Hoffenheim to save the tie. So, a nice comeback win, although I will say, Hoffenheim will probably feel like they were unlucky in this game. 26 shots on goal to 12. So
that's an absurd.
Yeah, that's a big difference. So to say that they will feel lucky to get a draw is, I mean, you could look at it from a couple different angles, but I mean, they'll feel
lucky stars.
Yeah, they'll feel fortunate that they got that draw and that they didn't lose that game. Another game, Roma, they beat Moscow again, 2 goals in the first half by Zico. Eden Zico, and Senzik underscores again for Roma. Roma, they're in the same group as Real Madrid, and a lot of people don't expect them to win this group, but most would accept that they would take care of Moscow for second place in this group, and they separated themselves a little bit with yesterday's result, not just winning, but getting a three goal win, which moves their goal differential to a +5, which is a really good start through 3 games. Young Boys in Valencia, that matchup, was obviously overshadowed in Group F Group H by Manchester United and Juventus. Juventus now has 9 points. Manchester United has 4, Valencia has 2, Young Boys has 1. So it's still wide open for the second spot, but it's almost over in terms of Juventus. I mean, they're at 9 points. If they win their next game, which is against Manchester United, we could pretty much shut the door on this group, wouldn't you say? They have a 5-point lead now. If they win next game, they'll have an 8-point lead.
Yeah, 5 points is a lot. 8 points that's just unfair.
Yeah, I think that they have a possibility of clinching that group with their next game against Manchester United. So that kind of wraps up the games for yesterday, Jeff, but we need to talk about today. We have the second part of Matchday 3. Who's playing today?
Who is playing today? That's an excellent question. We've got PSV versus Tottenham Hotspurs. We got Barcelona versus Inter Milan. Borussia Dortmund versus Atletico Madrid. And then we have... we're moving on. Then we have Galatasaray versus Schalke, Liverpool versus Red Star, Lokomotiv Moscow versus Porto, and PSG versus Napoli.
Yeah, some good matchups here
I
today.
like the Liverpool versus Red Star one, to be completely honest with you.
You like it as in terms of...
Just it seems like going to be like competitive. It just seems like it's going to be a good game.
That's a hot take.
Yes, it is a hot take. I just think it's going to be close.
Hot take cannon over here.
Yeah, Liverpool and Red Star, close game. I'm going to call it right now. I know Liverpool is probably the much better team than Red Star, but
they have some injuries.
Yes.
Liverpool has some injuries. We talked about it in the first segment.
And so that's why I'm saying maybe Liverpool's not at they're not at their strongest right now, so maybe this is a chance for Red Star to really take advantage.
So you're saying upset alert. Upset alert?
A possible upset alert. Don't knock me on that, but I'm saying upset alert. I'm not saying upset alert. I'm saying a possible
this
tie.
This game is also at Anfield, which is the home of Liverpool.
Okay, I'll say tie. The closest it can be is tie. Sorry, Red Star, but I'm giving you tie. That's as close as I'm getting.
Okay. I get it, though. Plus, Liverpool, it might be a game that they overlook. That they might be overlooking Red Star. So... the Borussia Dortmund game, Atletico Madrid, that's a good game, though. As we look, they're both in Group A, tied at 6 points. So we have the two teams with 6 points. The other two teams, Bruges and Monaco, have no points through 2 matches. So Dortmund and Atletico, today's match is important to see who can take the upper hand in the group. Because, as we know, it is beneficial to get first place in these groups as opposed to second, because first place allows your second round opponent in the knockout stage to be a second place team instead of a first place team. So it makes sense.
It's like a do or die situation, no doubt about it.
So we'll see. I mean, Dortmund and Atletico Madrid, they play again. These teams will play twice in the next 2 weeks. So even if one loses, the other one can come back. But it will be interesting. Borussia Dortmund has one of the hardest home field advantages in the world, one of the best places to play. They will host this game here at noon Pacific time, 3 Eastern time. Bruges and Monaco, they have a chance today to get on the board in terms of points. Both are sitting at 0. If either one of these teams has to win. If they tie, I think both are done. One of these teams has to win this game, in my opinion, to have a chance, even a breathing chance at advancing.
Chance to breathe only.
We see PSV and Tottenham. That's a big game for Tottenham, because if Tottenham falls behind, again, a team sitting on 0 points. PSV, again, sitting on 0 points. Both these teams are struggling. They're looking up at Inter and Barcelona sitting at 6 points apiece. Inter and Barcelona have, great chance to advance. They do play each other, but again, Tottenham, they need to win. Tottenham, I know, has aspirations of getting out of the group stage. They will feel that it's unsuccessful if they do not advance. Well, it starts today if they have any chance at doing that. So, moving on. A game that has shootout written on it. Napoli, PSG.
It literally has shootout written on it.
Napoli, PSG. We're talking about two teams that can score goals. Neymar Jr., he'll be on display as they face off PSG, Napoli. I'm still thinking about your Liverpool prediction there. But that is a home game for PSG as they host the Italians from Napoli in that match. Lokomotiv Moscow and Porto. It might not be a game that is, I don't know, moving the needle for some people, but Porto, that group in Group D, Porto, Schalke, they're tied 4 goals apiece. Galatasaray is at 3. So when we look at Group D, Porto, facing off against Moscow. They can really separate themselves here and put themselves in a great position to advance out of the group stage with a win over Moscow. And Schalke and Galatasaray is sitting at second and third, respectively. That's another big game. These are key games as we get into the third match day. We know that the first game or two in Champions League maybe are not terribly important. Teams can struggle and then figure it out, but these games are big. Lokomotiv, they will be hosting Porto. And Schalke, they will be actually playing in Turkey to face the Turkish champions, Galatasaray. Always a tough place to play. Going to Galatasaray is never easy. It will be a good game. But yes, when we looked at the groups, when they were first announced, a lot of people thought that Group D was the open group. No one really had a read on it. I think it was the one group where you could see all four teams winning, all four teams advancing, whereas in some of these other groups, you see the two top-heavy teams there, or maybe you see three big teams, kind of like the Tottenham Inter Barcelona group where you have three, and then you have PSV. That's, a lot of people aren't picking PSV to advance out of that, but no. Group D, going to be interesting.
Yes, it is. And you think whoever makes it through Group D has a chance to win the whole thing?
No.
No? That's why I asked
I wouldn't be surprised if they both were out in the next round.
Oh, so you're getting almost no chance.
So, I will say this. The last team to win the Champions League...
Came out of Group D?
No.
Oh, how's that?
The last team that won the Champions League that was not a big team was Porto.
Really?
And you know who the manager was? Jose Mourinho. That's how he got started. That's how he got started. So,
what are the odds?
So we're talking about Group D and we're talking about Porto. Even though they're a long shot, they have won the Champions League before. Not that they have any of those players left, because they don't, but you never know. So we'll be moving on. When we come back, we're going to talk about this weekend in the English Premier League. As we look ahead, we talked about Manchester United, how they're going to get Everton. What other games are happening? What do you think? What do we think will happen? We'll let you know. We'll also talk about some other notable games in Europe in domestic competitions. And we'll do that right after this.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the last segment of the soccer podcast. Of course, we are with you every Wednesday. So, if you're new here,
we'll be here for you.
If you're new here, please subscribe. Love to have you. Thank you for listening. So, Jeff, this weekend, English Premier League back in action. I know I like to talk about the English Premier League a lot because, in my opinion, it is the best league in the world.
Well, it is Premier.
It is the Premier League of the world. Anyways.
So you see what I did there?
Let's talk about the Saturday games first, Jeff. Did you have those up for me?
Yes, I do. We have Brighton versus the Wolves.
All right, so let's talk about this for a second. Okay. Brighton plays Wolves. Now, the Wolves finally suffered a defeat this last game. They lose to Watford, where they give up 2 goals in about a minute of game time. Just happened very quickly for Wolves. They're not a team that is really adept at playing from behind. Watford got a big win against Wolves. So Wolves will be looking to bounce back as they play Brighton. This game is in Brighton at the Amex Stadium. If you have not seen this stadium before, I would advise you to look at some pictures. Google it. The Amex Stadium in England is...
It's beautiful.
It is
that a good promotion?
It is aesthetically pleasing. It is a nice looking stadium, and I love that stadium. So, Brighton, they're going to host Wolves in a tough game for Brighton. As we know, The Wolves, I think the Wolves can really overpower them in this game. Brighton, however, coming off a win against Newcastle, they were not looking that impressive against Newcastle, though. They scraped by a win against a team that hasn't won a game. I think the Wolves are going to take this win. I see the Wolves winning by a score of 1-0. That's their MO. I know they got off track last week, but Wolves 1-0 is what I see. So,
and I see the same thing.
What's the next game that we got?
We have Fulham versus Bournemouth.
All right, so Fulham and Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth, they might be they're the darling of the APL so far this season. They're sitting in
Black
sixth
and red
place.
does go, so I like their jerseys also.
They're sitting in
or
sixth.
their kits, excuse me.
Yeah. They're sitting in sixth place, which is beyond their wildest dreams. Any Bournemouth fan, I think, if you told them that they would finish in the top 6, if you told them that before the season started, they probably would have slapped you across the face. Even they didn't believe. But so far, this team is looking
for
great.
Being optimistic about their favorite team?
Yes, because optimistic for Bournemouth is like a 10th place finish.
Oh.
But
still, like, if you said, hey, your favorite team's going to do well, smack. How
yeah,
dare you say that?
They would say, you
sound
drunk?
They sound like the Browns.
So, Bournemouth will face Fulham. Bournemouth has been playing great under Eddie Howe. This manager is regarded as one of the best managers in England. He's one of the youngest. He might actually be the youngest. I don't know off the top of my head. But he is a baby-faced manager. He's got this Bournemouth team playing very attractive football. They move the ball very quickly. They have speedy players. They score goals. Man, I don't know if a lot of people saw this coming. We'll see if they can keep up this form, though. As we know, sometimes teams can get streaky, and then they kind of fall back down to earth. It wouldn't be the most shocking thing if Bournemouth falls back a little.
Stays in the top 6, and everyone has an aneurysm.
Yeah. So Fulham, they're a newly promoted side, as we all know. They only have one win through 9 games. They score goals.
That's the case with
the problem with Fulham, though, is that they score goals, but they give up a ton of goals. They lost to Cardiff 4-2 last week.
Well, isn't that the case for all teams that get promoted? They always are they're once in a while, or not once in a while, but they're going to be bad at first.
Sometimes. Wolves have been good, but yes, Fulham and Cardiff are near the bottom. So,
well, speaking of Cardiff, they're playing Liverpool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I wanted to...
should we say like 5-0?
Well, I wanted to say for Bournemouth, I think they're going to win that game.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you already...
No, it's okay. I think Bournemouth is going to win that game. I just can't see Fulham stopping anybody. They can't stop getting scored on. I see a scoreline of 3-1 Bournemouth. You said Liverpool Cardiff, huh?
Yes.
Liverpool Cardiff. Okay. And that game is also Saturday morning. We will see Liverpool again playing at home. Man, this might be the blowout of the week. Cardiff City's not good.
Best team in soccer, best team in the league versus worst team in the league. What are you going to do?
We might see a big one here, folks.
5-0.
It could be. I'll say 4. 4-0 Liverpool. Sadio Mane, I think he'll be playing. He'll be back. He'll score. Salah's starting to find it. He's starting to find that form that made him so deadly last year as he won English Player of the Year. So, who do we have next, Jeff?
Next we have... Well, we did Liverpool and Cardiff, I said.
Mm-hmm.
Did we?
I talked about that.
Okay, so Southampton versus Newcastle.
Oh, so this is a game that nobody really wants to watch because we're talking about the number 16 and number 20th team playing each other. Southampton can definitely use a win, though, as they would like to have a season where they don't fight for relegation, to stay out of relegation like they did last year. They did fight and win that battle, but you don't want to continue to do this. Southampton facing a Newcastle side. Newcastle, I thought, was unfortunate to lose last week, but they have not won a game out of 9. Can you imagine if they go 10 games without a win out of a 38-game season? It might be time that this might be the end for Rafa Benitez, the manager for Newcastle. If they can't win this game, I'm not sure that they'll be able to win any games. But it is in Southampton. It is at St. Mary's Stadium. Another nice stadium, I might add. So it's a long road trip for Newcastle. Newcastle's the club that is geographically the most northern club, and I think Southampton might be the most Southern, but they might not. There's a few teams that are all on the southern shore of England. They're one of them. Brighton's another one. Bournemouth is another one. We'll see. I like Southampton to win this game, I think, by a score of 1-0. What other games we got there, Jeff?
Well, then we got Watford versus Huddersfield.
All right, so Watford, impressive win last week against Wolves. They really came in and brought the Wolves back down to earth.
Guess they were hungry like the wolf.
Yeah.
Huh?
So Watford against Huddersfield. I got it.
Good.
So Huddersfield is the other team. Them and Newcastle. Huddersfield and Newcastle have not won. It's a tough proposition for this Huddersfield team that can't seem to find goals. Of course, they get scored on, but it's mostly because they can't really score any goals. I mean, you look and they have 4 goals on the season. Watford has 13. Huddersfield has scored 4 and given up 18, Jeff. That's a negative 14 differential. That is not a good recipe for success.
Anything negative is going to be negative.
But what about negative 14?
That's
like
pretty
more
darn
than
negative.
Yeah.
That's negative times, well, you can't times a negative.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say it's bad.
And Watford is at home as they play at Vicarage Road. If you don't know this, you will now. Elton John, big part of Watford Club. Goes to every game.
Elton John, really?
Yeah, he's the most famous Watford fan. So, Watford, I see them with their yellow and black kits. On Saturday, I see them winning this game. I will say they win 2-0. So, who do we have next?
2-0. Okay, next
Is
we
it
have
Leicester time yet?
Leicester versus West Ham.
Ooh, then now this one, man. This is a game you got to take a look for, man. If you're a fan of the English Premier League, I think this has a chance to be a real cracker of a match, if you know what I mean.
Real cracker. Haven't heard that saying ever.
Leicester City has 15 goals scored, 15-4, 15 against. West Ham 8-4, 14 against. We know that West Ham has struggled. They always seem to struggle in the first half of the season. That's been a thing for them the last couple of years. Very frustrating for their fans, but West Ham sits at 14th place. Leicester at 11. It's a big game for both clubs. One will look to move up the table. One will look to be in a respectable part of the table, as West Ham will try to be in the top 10 where they belong. They are much too talented to be this low. But as we know, Leicester is very tough at King Power Stadium. That's where they'll be playing in the Midlands of England, of course. Man. I see a draw. I see a draw in this game. I see both teams scoring 2 goals. Leicester 2, West Ham 2. So that should wrap up.
That's 4.
Well, 2 goals apiece.
I know, but I did the math.
So let's go on
That's all for Saturday.
Yeah, let's move on to Sunday.
Okay, well, we got Burnley versus Chelsea.
Chelsea, okay. Chelsea, yeah, they are still undefeated.
My favorite team, apparently.
Yeah, Jeff's favorite team.
From the poll we did last week.
They will play at Turf Moor, which is, of course, the Burnley home grounds. And I will say, Burnley might have the best fans in all of English football. They're called the Suicide Squad. I
wonder where they got that from.
Burnley is a rough place to travel for visiting fans. They like a lot of action.
Sounds like it's kind of scary to go there.
Yeah, I would say so.
So then we got Palace versus Arsenal.
Yeah, so before that, let me give the score. Chelsea, I think, wins this game. I think they win by a score 2-0. And then, what was the next game you said? Palace and Arsenal?
Palace and Arsenal.
Oh, a battle of 2 London clubs. Okay. So not much travel there, but it is at Selhurst Park. Of course, the home of Crystal Palace. That's another stadium, Jeff. Man, England has such good stadiums, it's actually ridiculous. Selhurst Park, great atmosphere, great fans. Palace, they're in England. They're a London club that has very limited success, but man, their fans, you would never know it because they're singing all game. They're super loud. The problem with Crystal Palace is that they can't score goals. They have 5 goals on the season. They have only given up 11, which is very respectable, but they're facing an Arsenal side who's on fire right now. I think Arsenal's won 10 games now in a row. On fire. 22 goals for Arsenal, only 11 conceded. Wilfried Zaha is a great player for Crystal Palace. I just don't see him getting enough help. I have Arsenal winning this game. I don't think it'll be terribly easy, though. 2-1, Arsenal wins. on the road in London. What's the next game we got? The last game for Sunday.
Manchester United versus Everton.
Oh man, this is a game where if I get it wrong, I'm fired, I believe. So Manchester United, well, me too, or Mourinho too. Maybe me and him will both get fired.
I would be very surprised if you got fired just over a wrong guess, because I would have been fired a long time ago.
Manchester United, it looks like they're ripe for the taking. If you're an Everton fan, you're probably thinking this is the time that we get them, but I disagree. Manchester United will win this game. I think they'll make a statement. It'll be a 2.
This is a must-win game, basically, for the job. His job. The job is on the line.
2-0, Man United. I think they get it done. They bounce back. So the Monday game is the game of the week, Jeff. It's at 1 p.m. Pacific time.
I like this matchup. Tottenham Hotspur versus Manchester City.
That is definitely the game of the week, and that's why it's on Monday.
It's on Monday night. It's Monday Night Football.
No, it is. It is.
I know.
It's Monday Night Football.
They
actually never used to play on Mondays until recently.
Really?
They decided to have one game, and it's a night game in England instead of being a day game.
So they took it from the NFL. That's basically
it's modeled after that. Yeah, absolutely. So, like, if you look at it, most of these games are at in the afternoon for England. Like, if you look at the times, if you do I know you're looking at it Pacific time,
9 a.m.
Yeah, you're looking at Pacific time. But if in England it's like 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah. And then
but Monday night is at 1 p.m. Pacific time, which is 9 or 10 p.m. in England. So it's Monday night. Yeah. So Tottenham City, man, this is a big one, man. This is I think City will win this game. It's at Wembley, though. Tottenham will be the home team, but Tottenham's form has been off lately, man. They look tired. They've suffered some minor injuries. They look to be getting back on track, but I don't know. I'm not too confident in them. I think City wins this game, but I think there'll be some goals. Let me say 3-1 City.
3-1 City? That sounds accurate.
Yeah, so that's all we got. Also, other notable games. Napoli plays Roma in Italy, so 2 Champions League teams will face off in the domestic Serie A, of course, and PSG, first place in France, will play against Marseille, who's 4th right now. So another big game for a big club outside of England. So that's all we have for you today. We are out of time. But Jeff, thank you for co-hosting with me today.
Oh, anytime, my friend.
And we will be back. Me and Jeff will be back next Wednesday. We'll discuss what happened this weekend, and of course, look ahead to next weekend's games as well. So see you then.
We will see you then. Get ready.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.